The Independent Police Investigative Directorate says it will investigate whether police action was warranted in the shootout that left 9 suspects dead in Desai, KwaZulu-Natal this week. The police were executing the arrest of suspected criminals in the township when a shootout ensued, killing 9 suspects. 2 suspects escaped and 2 weapons were recovered from the suspects' hideout. Between April 2023 and April 2024, more than 80 suspects have been fatally wounded by the police. The priority of SAPS when executing arrests has since come into sharp focus, and we speak now to Criminologist and Safety and Security Head at Tshwane University of Technology, Professor Kholofelo Rakubu. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning to the viewers.
Now, IPED says it will be investigating whether the police action to engage in a shootout where the 9 suspects were left dead was indeed warranted. And essentially, I want to know from you, what is the first point of reference when police are carrying out an arrest?
I think unfortunately, we're having this conversation because of the ambiguity around the Criminal Procedure Act, because that should clearly specify how to carry an arrest and when to use force, particularly Section 49, subsection 1 and 2, because that should provide how and when and the circumstances to use force or to effect a successful arrest. And again, that particular subsection specifies the issue, the proportionality, the proportionality of what and when to use force. But there has been ambiguity around the proportionality of force. So we're mentioning IPED now because the Act clearly does not outline the test of proportionality, because now we're questioning to what extent were officers, the police officers, felt unsafe. To what extent did they, because now it's going to be a test of proportionality, like I said, the ambiguity of the proportionality of force, because the delay around the review of Criminal Procedure Act and now has led to numerous police killings. You understand? Because IPED, yes, can come in because the Act gives more powers to the perpetrators. That is my personal opinion around this. But again, it is going to be so much complicated, and this kind of issues have led to law enforcers avoiding those kinds of situations. But we are in this situation because of what? The crime landscape. And again, the police now have adopted the death approach, unintentionally so, I would say. Reason being the evolution of an offender they are dealing with. Yes, people, we can be talking about the circumstances around the arrest, that there were 9 suspects, and there were 2 weapons. But the Act prescribed that although you have to prescribe the force that should be proportional to the seriousness of the crime, the suspect that the suspect is thought to have committed, but also the threat or danger that the suspect poses to the arrester.
All right. Let's expand on that a little bit, Professor. You referenced the ambiguity of proportionality of force. In layman's terms, could you explain to us, where are these acts ambiguous?
The Act specifies that there should be, when you effect an arrest, right, the use of force, it must be that as the arrester, you are in danger, right? Or the suspect, the circumstances are to confine the offender or to prevent him from shooting or evading an arrest. So looking in that situation, possibly the arrester felt to be in danger, right? and there was a possibility, and looking into the seriousness of the offences the arrestee is thought to have committed. We're talking about offenders that gang raped women that have been involved in multiple robberies. So the circumstances around the arrest, now even the nature of crimes committed have led to this killing of 9 suspects.
All right.
Because the police, obviously, it's just that the proportionality questions around when did you feel unsafe? When did you think they are going to shoot? Why did you shoot? Now, hence we have police killings. We're saying, according to the ambiguity of the proportionality of the force, or the discrepancies or controversies around criminal procedure, have led to numerous police killings. Because the circumstances are that police should wait for suspect to shoot first.
Okay, this is what I needed clarity. Yeah, this is what I needed clarity on. When is it warranted for the police to shoot, and in some instances shoot to kill?
When the seriousness of the crime the suspect is thought to have committed, and also threat to the arrester, bystander, and society as a whole.
Okay. And you spoke, Professor, also about the act giving more power to the perpetrator. In what way?
The minute the act fails to articulate the dynamism of the force, you see, the act does not specify, when we talk of force, what kind of force. The act says the police officer must use minimum force. What is minimum force? Under which circumstances is minimum force?
And minimum is relative.
So are we saying officers did not understand when to use force or how to use force when they were dealing with a gang that committed those kinds of crime, and the threat those gangs pose to bystanders and the community? Because we know we have to have community's voice as well. We have to consider community's voice. If we tap into community's voice, permanent problem permanently removed. An eye for an eye, which is now a paradigm shift in which now South Africans are calling for. Because of what? The crime and the magnitude of crime, the nature of violent crime in South Africa calls for what? A move towards this direction. However, South African prescripts does not allow.
Okay.
So you see the conflict.
I see the conflict. So, Professor, then in that regard, tell me, what do you say about people who then say that as a result of all of these killings, essentially what the police are doing is perhaps maybe putting themselves in more harm's way because they're now criminals, do not see being approached by cops as an arrest, but rather are already seeing death, as you speak about the death approach that police have taken?
We can be looking into the current crime and think this is the first one. It's not the first one. Police have always been in danger. Criminals have always been having a upper hand. Otherwise, if you check the report by the minister in 2023, approximately 70 law enforcers were shot and killed by the suspects. So you can understand the amount of danger they've always been. This is not a new situation. It's just that it caught media attention and all that. But police have always been in danger, and some of the issues around the controversies that I've just mentioned and the delay in the review of the Criminal Procedure Act, particularly Section 49, which talks about arrests.
And Professor, what do we make of community members who believe rehabilitation is ineffective, and once criminals are apprehended, sentenced, and later released, they return to criminal activity?
Come again with the question?
What do you think about the sentiments of the community that when criminals are apprehended and sentenced, would eventually be later released to return to criminal activity?
That is because they normally don't arrest the kingpins, they arrest the runners. If you tap into this story, you realize that there was a gang prior to this gang that had vacated the community, and another gang was formed. Due to what? The undermining of the law enforcement or the criminal justice system and the loopholes within the justice system. So South Africans have lost faith in the justice system because of what you've just mentioned. Crime just evolves. You deal with runners and kingpins remains. So hence, like I said, there's no trust in the system. But if you look at the applause the police have been receiving, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, doesn't this tell of a paradigm shift in the response to crime? Because communities, this is what they want in particular, where now police will just send a message to perpetrators out there that should you come for us, we come for you. But again, South Africa should now review its policies, its act and all that, the prescripts generally, to be on par with the responses, because it hinders service delivery from the police side, because you have to wait for an offender, a suspect, to shoot you first, because now you have to think around the issues I have just highlighted. So it's a serious mess.
Yeah, it is indeed. Professor, what do you think could be the possible solution to eradicating reoffending by criminals once they're said to be rehabilitated and then let out into communities again?
Can we talk of harsher punishment, where the punishment must always fit the crime? Because I think some of the punishment given to perpetrators in South Africa are too soft. That is why we don't even deal with crime. That is why there's recidivism. That is why it looks like offenders are not rehabilitated or our centers are not doing enough. That is because community is just a crime landscape, and community is a brief. Crime continues, the learning continues. So the minute the punishment fits crime, right, there's going to be reduction in the level of crime, in the commission of crime, in the decision to commit crime. But again, let's consider community's voice, and I've been always calling for urgent review of the Criminal Procedure Act. I'm not calling for death penalty. I understand the death approach that has been adopted, and it has always been there. However, crime is not even going down. Reason being, some of the issues we're talking about, IPD is going to go after certain officers. Not all officers can handle what IPD is coming for. So the pressure and all that. So it's going to be one man alone in the show, and then people will be left depressed and all that. Then that impact on decision to respond in most cases, where you have to chase this the suspects and they shoot first, and now you have to be questioned, why did you shoot back? So it looks like policing in South Africa get shot so that we understand, your purpose as a police officer in South Africa.
And in a nutshell, Professor, in closing, do you think that the SAPS are winning the battle against crime?
They are not winning the battle against crime. Let's tap into the long-standing issues they have internally, issues of resources, corruption, politics, and all that. They are not. And again, the one other aspect is the delay in the review of critical policies, but they are not winning the battle against crime. There are layers and layers of issues that impact on them not winning the battle. They are trying, however, they do have internal and external issues impeding service delivery from their side.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Professor. That was criminologist and head of the Department of Safety and Security Management at Tshwane University of Technology, Professor Kholofelo Rakubu.